Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Minds and Health. My name is Ediri Ose Ediale. I'm your psychotherapist and professional counselor on this program. Minds and Health is a program where we talk about everything mental health because we understand that a healthy life is a long and happy life. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic, and the topic is emotional abuse. What is emotional abuse actually? How can you define it? What are the characteristics of emotional abuse? How does it affect you? And then what can you do about it? I'm sure you've heard about that topic before. I'm sure you've heard about people say emotional abuse or physical abuse. But today we're going to be talking about emotional abuse. So what is it? Emotional abuse, first of all, you have two words in it, emotional and abuse. So it has to do with your emotions and something that has been abnormally used, because abuse is a short form of something that is abnormally used. So what is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is when someone uses fear, manipulation, using shame, blame, gaslighting to make the person feel bad so that the person can be under their control. Is called emotional abuse. Where can emotional abuse happen? Because sometimes we think that emotional abuse is only in relationships or it's only in marriage. But the truth is that while emotional abuse is very rampant in relationships, it can happen in different relationship structures. It can happen between parents and children. It can even happen between children and parents. It can happen in the office. It can happen between an employer and employee. It can happen between siblings. So emotional abuse, to understand it, is to know that someone is using emotional blackmail, emotional manipulation, force and fear, or even intimidation to control another person. That is the definition. Now, I want you to understand how you can identify emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is a consistent pattern of behavior that uses force, fear, intimidation, and manipulation. And why I say consistent is because some of the characteristics I'm going to be naming for you, it happens sometimes between people when they're angry. But the only way you can identify if it's emotional abuse, if there is a consistent pattern of such behavior. So what are the characteristics of emotional abuse? Derogatory names and adjectives used on somebody, like stupid, foolish, idiot. You're such a waste of time. You don't know anything. If you're interacting with somebody and the person continuously uses derogatory adjectives on you, that is emotional abuse. You're not stupid. You're not foolish. You're not a failure. Even if you have done something that has upset the person, it does not warrant the person calling you names. So if you are in a relationship, whatever structure of relationship, whether it's family, whether it's work, and there's a consistent name calling, derogatory use of adjectives against you, that is emotional abuse. Yelling is another form of emotional abuse. When someone wants to get their point across and they feel the need to shout at you all the time, they'll shout your voice down. They don't want your voice to be heard. That is abuse. You can pass a message across even when you are angry without raising your voice consistently. Like I said, there are sometimes all of us get angry and we can raise our voices. However, if there's a consistent pattern of yelling and shouting, that is emotional abuse. Another characteristic of emotional abuse is shaming, especially in public places. So let's say you go out with a friend of yours. It could be someone you're in a relationship with or just your friend. And something happens. Maybe you mistakenly you'll turn over the water or something. It happens to everybody. And the person begins to say, can you see how stupid you are? I'm so embarrassed that you are here with me. That you do not even know how to do anything, making you feel ashamed. That is abuse. If you make a mistake, what the person can say, oh, are you fine? I mean, it happens to everybody. But for the person to make you feel ashamed, especially in the public light, and the person consistently does that, is emotional abuse. When somebody belittles you, belittles your accomplishments, belittles your efforts, it's abuse. So let me give you an example. If you are working in an organization and you're doing your best, and you have a boss, maybe a line manager, that consistently tells you what you're doing is rubbish, is not acceptable, is abuse. And I will tell you why. So even if your work is not up to par, that means there's room for improvement. It doesn't mean that the person should use derogatory terms in explaining to you what you did was wrong. They can say things like, oh, you did the job yesterday, I saw it. It can have a little bit of improvement. You can have a little bit of an improvement in that assignment. That is a better way of passing a message across. But if the person said, or the person consistently says, what did you do? That work you did had no meaning. It was useless. That is a form of emotional abuse. What about ignoring your needs? And this happens in relationships. And it could be a relationship between parents and children. It could be a relationship between husband and wife. So let me talk about that a little bit. So for instance, if you have a child and the child is sad or unhappy and you ignore your child's feelings, is emotional abuse. Because a lot of times in Africa, there's a specific kind of parenting we call African parenting, where we feel that we can force our children, to do what we want, ignoring what they feel. But I'm here to tell you that if you consistently ignore your child's emotions, it's a form of abuse.